Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. Interesting story today. I want to focus on the press, and I want to start this with a couple quotes that I'm familiar with. I looked up. Thomas Jefferson in 1823 said, "The only security of all is in a free press. The force of public opinion cannot be resisted when permitted freely to be expressed. The agitation it produces must be submitted to. It is necessary to keep the waters pure." Okay, and that's definitely going to be a reference to the crimes here of the proof of the many crimes, horrific, sometimes involving children, X-rays, just so many, it's unbelievable. And the press has hidden this information from the public. You know, they've hidden it from the voters. You know, during elections, and I'm going to show you proof of that. Another quote, Malcolm X said, "The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent." And that's true, you know. And even today where we have the internet, and thank God we have the internet, because, I mean, I was sunk without the internet. You know, that's how, you know, I've spread these videos, and, you know, and I'm probably at 3 million views between people watching videos on Facebook and YouTube. There's people all over the world that know this incredible, true, fact-filled story. But it's still not enough to put pressure. You know, right now we don't have pressure. But you do one local news story, and you know, here in Midland, Odessa, and that's a game changer. You know, all of a sudden, that's what, you know, Jefferson said. They would have to submit under the pressure of the people. They find out that the chief of police has known about this all this time. He's known about these underground facilities. He's known about them faking X-rays. You know, the mayor has known about that. You know, let the people find that out, and all of a sudden, it's a game changer. Heads would roll, you know, either killing one homeowner after another, you know, it's just incredible what's going on here. Okay. And then earlier this year, the Trump said the press is truly the enemy of the public, you know. And that's pretty broad, you know, because, you know, I mean, you know, I know that they can point, oh, well, we did this story. Well, this story wasn't your friends, you know what I mean? And, you know, that's the thing. That's where the lack of freedom goes, because it's okay to murder this little girl, but it's not okay to murder this little girl, you know, and so we'll report on the murder of this girl here, but we won't report. You can break into Buddy's home and all these other homes out here, but you can't break in this home. You can break in there and shoot him, but you can't, we're going to report it, and you're going to be held accountable if you break in this one. You see what I'm saying? You know, they're picking and choosing here, and, you know, and I tell you what, you know, they're using our airwaves. You know, they have to get to get on the FCC guidelines, the government. You know, at one time I filed a report on them through the FCC because that's taxpayers' dollars. You know, I know that radio broadcast and the TV broadcast, you know, they've got to get on the public airwaves, right? And if you get on their public airwaves and you're doing it to support organized crime, you ought to be held accountable, in my opinion, you know. And so I'm going to show you some of the proofs of that. I remember before all these crimes started, everything, and, you know, and discussing some situation, I was telling my dad, and it's like, oh, I just call the press. I was so naive. You know, when you're brought up in school and, you know, you see a wrong and it's not getting righted, you call the press, and the press tells the public, and all of a sudden there's that pressure put on the elected leaders and the police, and they're going to get something done once they get that pressure put on them by the press, right? And my dad says, you think he knew that it's rigged is what it is, you know. And I don't know if it's elites that are in control of the press or whatever, you know, because I really believe it comes up at a high level. And I remember that as I contact various reporters. I've contacted just hundreds of local, state, national reporters. And you know, I try not to blame them personally. You know what I mean? Because you know, here, you know, they've got a boss and a boss's boss and a boss's boss. And I think that's where it's really coming through. They're going, no, we're not going to report that. It's okay to murder that little girl, you know. And, you know, I don't know how they tell them that, but how else could you tell them that? You know, no, we're not going to report that because we stand on the side of breaking into homes and murdering innocent people. That we're on this side. We don't want the public to know that, you know. Is that what they tell a reporter, you know? And so, and they were just saying, and part of this that gave me the thought, and I'm going to show you this here in a minute. There was a news story, it's a private investigator for a Haley Dunn case. Of course, I have a connection to that because I wrote the Department of Justice in 2013, suggested they look here in the underground facilities, and 2 days later, her remains are found. Now I've got more than a half dozen people documented saying Haley was killed and buried over in Odessa. I mean, I've got recorded statements, screenshots, everything. Once again, the press. It's not there's so many things that I've got, and it's not Buddy said, it's not Buddy said, so-and-so said. I've got a recording, you know what I mean? I've got a screenshot, but that's one of the stories that's being censored, like Nazi Germany, like the book burnings or whatever. They're censoring the news. And so anyways, this private investigator for Haley Dunn, she's harassed over in Odessa. I did a Facebook post on that, and I'm thinking, and that part of the reason is because they're trying to cover up the murder of that little girl, and I think it comes back down to the $1 million underground facilities here, the oil show parties. Her mom was a stripper in the area, and maybe her mom was, and I really suspect that her mom was ordered to work during the 2010 oil show parties, and she brought Haley with her. And like I said, that's a whole nother story, but all that makes sense. Because she was a stripper, it makes sense that she was here in the underground facility, maybe in my backyard, and maybe there was a 13-year-old little Colorado City, Texas cheerleader there. That was 2 months before she went missing. And then with lots of wealthy, powerful people at them parties, the oil show parties, they don't want the public to know they were at the same party that Haley Dunn was at. So they don't want the murder of Haley Dunn to be, resolved, So they're going to let them killers off the hook, because of that. That's one theory. Anyways, I had a call one time. Somebody said, contact the Center for Missing Children, and so I did, and I start my, because now I've learned to record everything, because then they're going, oh, I didn't say that, whatever, I know you did, and all of a sudden it's no longer Buddy said you said, I've got a recording of it, so I start to record it, make a phone call, I'll call the Center for Missing Children, I tell them about Haley Dunn, I tell them about all the crimes there, and nothing happens, and that was my proof, there's my proof right there, and the young girl murdered at the oil show party, remains are found of a 14 to 21-year-old girl in 2013. I think that's the girl that was murdered. My friend was there. She told me it happened. I believed her. I've said it, I can't tell you how many times. And now, I've got multiple people saying there's underground facilities here. And, and Google Maps is looking like one's in my backyard. There's all kinds of evidence, all kinds of leads that could be followed, but nothing's happening. And the press is putting no pressure on police to solve the murder of that little girl, And then a neighbor comes by, and I put a recorder because once again I don't trust people, and she goes on to tell me that children are buried under that home down the street. Okay, well, I've got multiple people telling me there's underground facilities tunnels here. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but that's a very serious accusation, and I have it recorded, and so I send that recording to the chief of police, and then that's when I find out that I'm blocked, because I was actually, at the time, we were sending emails back and forth, he lives around the corner, he lives in my neighborhood, the chief of police of Midland, while all these crimes are being committed against me over here, he's my neighbor, okay, and once again, multiple underground facilities, parties, tunnels, etc. And so then I send to the mayor, city council, and all. Well, don't you think that'd be a news story? Don't you think the public would want to know that? Of course they would. But who's stopping them? I tell you who's stopping them: KMID, CBS 7, News West 9, and the Midland Reporter Telegram. And then you try to contact, you go out to state level, or you go to national level, and then they're covering it up too. I mean, I've contacted all of them, 60 Minutes, 48 Hours. I've gone alternative media. I've had 3 news stories posted on the internet. That's only on the internet. And out of contacting hundreds of reporters. One of them was from Anonymous, the hacktivist group. They posted a story about me. Okay, imagine that. The hacktivist group posts a story about me. And then another one was from IntelliHub, and that was several years ago. And then the first one was this little local reporter, and he told me he had his stuff taken down legally. Somebody challenged him in court, and so his little server got taken down or whatever. And so that's not even there. And so the other 2 I can leave links on and for you at the end of this video. First known secret police gang since Nazi Germany. Stayed secret for 6 years. First time in the history of America, crime victim offered a reward to identify police. Sound like a big story? Yeah, it is. International, national headlines. Nothing. Now, I mean, millions of people have seen the pictures, you know. They just got identified this year. Now it looks like 5 of them were under my house, you know. Possibly police tried to murder me in my house. That's what it looks like right now. Can't get a news story in the nation. Crimes continue against me, okay. Press is a problem. There's your problem. Boy, you free the press, you know, we free the press and all of a sudden lots of problems fix themselves, you know, because public pressure, just like Thomas Jefferson said, public pressure, you know, they've got to bow down to it. You know, the chief of police has got to start following the law. All of a sudden, the law applies everywhere. I mean, it's not just, oh, you can break in this house, you can't break in that house, you can break it, you can kill this person, you can't kill this person, you know. And the press and the public are working together deciding who lives and who dies. Literally, that's what's going on. Multiple people documented saying underground facilities here. I mean, not just Buddy said, they said, you know, I've got the print screen, the recorded phone calls. One woman said there's 4 3-bedroom underground homes, 25 foot deep, said they're having pedophile parties down there, you know. That's where I think the oil show parties are, the international oil show parties that are famous, everybody's heard of, you know. And that's where I believe the young girl was murdered, you know. Triple proof, I wasn't shot with my gun. You know what that means? Somebody come to my home and shot me. But they didn't just come to my home and shoot me, they come to my home and shot me from under my house. That's an international headline news story. Man is shot in his own home by somebody under his home after reporting a tunnel to the DEA. Right? Is that a big story? Is that a big news story? Do you think KMID, CBS 7 would report that? News West 9? You know, I'm going to show you that. The other thing I'm going to show you on these 4 news stations here, 2 of them have me blocked. You know, I've contacted them, sent them evidence so many times on so many different crimes. Midland Reporter Telegram blocked me, you know, and I'll show you that. And CBS 7 blocked me. Them 2 had to, you know, imagine that. You know, here's a guy risking my life trying to make the city safer, right? I mean, that's all there is to it, you know, to stop crimes. And, you know, with hard evidence and facts, you know, print screens, recorded phone calls, you know, police reports, medical records, etc. That's you know, it's not my word, and they're blocking him. Oh, no, we don't want to hear that. You know, we're only reporting the good stuff. Oh, look, a police officer petted the dog. You know, oh, look at there, a good police officer petted the dog, right? Well, you know, how about, you know, breaking into homes all over the place, you know, stealing and killing? What about that, you know? What about these little girls being murdered, you know? And let's report them stories too. And so, proof of x-rays being faked. Wow, what a huge story. Can you imagine that? That's a $1 billion deal, you know. You go to the hospital, oh, yeah, let's take an x-ray. Here's a little spot on your lung, you know. How do you know that's your lung? You don't. You trusted them. How do you know they didn't take somebody else's lung and put your name on it? You don't. You trusted them. And so when I show you proof, triple proof, that my x-rays were faked at the hospital, and why were they faked? To cover up a premeditated murder attempt, to cover up people breaking into my home, shoot me by surprise, to cover up underground facilities where the killing and murdering, raping little kids at. That's why they were faked, you know. But don't you think they're faking your x-rays, you know? You know, going there, they're dismembering people. And they took the x-rays of a guy missing his heel bone, put my name on it, took me into surgery and cut my heel bone out. I was intentionally maimed, mutilated, and dismembered. And that's not my opinion, my assessment. That's the facts. That's the truth. And you know, and I have the evidence to back it up, but the press won't tell the public to put pressure on law enforcement to do anything, and the doctors just getting rich, cutting off arms and legs right and left. And there ain't nobody to stop them. You know, I've gone to FBI, Texas Rangers, medical board, you name it, you know. Very important people involved. You know, the brother-in-law of U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway lived across the street before I moved in here. Right. Some people are thinking this goes to Washington. Some people think that maybe Conaway knows about these $1 million underground facilities that were hosting international oil show parties. Because his brother-in-law used to live across the street, you know, his late brother-in-law. And I talked to him, you know, personally talked to Conaway. And now he's magically not running for re-election, right? Rick Perry used to be governor of Texas. He's magically stepping down from Secretary of Energy. right now. Right? I think it's because of what happened here. I think Rick Perry is stepping down from Secretary of Energy because of the old $1 million oil show parties that are going on where they're murdering little girls. You know, what happened in 2010, you know, because of the crimes here. He was governor of Texas. When I was shot, I contacted him. I have the emails to prove it. Contacting Rick Perry. That's a big name, you know, Secretary of Energy right now. Secretary of Homeland Security stepping down. I think it's because of the crimes right here. And, you know, and if y'all saw this summer where I contacted Homeland Security, I met Homeland Security agent Paul and another guy over here at Home Depot behind my house, right? Showed him where I thought the tunnels were at. 2 weeks later, the ground's being dug up and concrete's being poured where I believe the tunnels were at. Right. And, you know, and the main thing that Paul wanted was I don't see why you don't just sell that house if you're living under the threat of death. You know, that's exactly what the criminals want. The killers that are breaking into homes, rigging homes. They're trying to terrorize me from my home, you know, and it's corrupt police looking the other way, and he's the corrupt police, right? You know, if you're part of the Hobbs Act that says that you're part of a crime ring that is working together to entice property owners to sell their property under the threat of death, which is what's happening, then you go to prison for 20 years. Some people are asking, can Paul go to prison for 20 years? Can the chief of police, if he knows about the underground facility, go to prison, right? And then can the mayor go to prison? Can the city council go to prison? Can the attorney general go to prison? Can governor go to prison? You know, and these are big news stories because that's what this is about. I'm going to show you the evidence. This is what I saw there on
by one officer and disregarded by another agency, all while doing her job as a private investigator.
This is Haley Dunn's private investigator.
Is that a direct threat, sir? I am terrified of you right now. And good? You just said good. And I've got you on recording. That was the interaction captured by Erica Morse and an ECISD officer. Within the first few seconds of him exiting the vehicle, I immediately knew that I was in trouble. He was very hostile from the very beginning.
And see, I suspected, because, you know, I have people once again documented, 2 different people told me that the murder of Haley Dunn and the murder of Cody Mercer was recorded and the police over in Odessa have it. So I wondered if that's, you know, she was investigating the Haley Dunn murder and these police were harassing her because of that reason, because some police. And then another woman's recorded on a phone call saying that Haley Dunn was buried in the backyard of Jackie Thompson. And he was an Odessa police officer who's now doing to prison. He was, you know, I guess confessed to moving 500 pounds of meth, you know, a police officer in Odessa. But anyway, that's that story. Well, see, I just recently did a video where I recorded that same woman, Erica Morse, that private investigator, she did a podcast called The Flight for Haley Dunn Justice. And I asked, is this a Freudian slip right here? And I'm going to let you listen to what she said, same person.
Yeah, there was just a lot of deviancy. There was definitely some drug abuse going on under the house or under that roof.
Did you hear that?
You know, and she said, yeah, there's a lot of deviancy, a lot of drug use going on under the house, right? Well, buddy said, remember what I told you a while ago? I'm thinking that Haley Dunn was under my house with her mom at the 2010 oil show parties because her mom was a stripper in the area, and that just makes sense, you know? And I got a message from one person, once again, a print screen saying that the mom was taking Haley Dunn to the strip club with her, so it makes sense she would take her to the oil show parties, okay? And so I did a Facebook post, Haley Dunn, PI, harassed in Odessa. And you know, and same stuff I just told you. And, you know, and just one of the opening pictures there, I created a drug rehab counselor. This is only one of the more than half dozen people that told me that Haley was killed and buried over in Odessa. She said that this Christy Otts right here, okay, contacts me on YouTube. And she said she got the confession for Haley Dunn's murder in 2015 from a guy that she later told me named Brett Bushman, okay? And then Christy contacts me under Facebook. She uses a fake name, Allison Mack. You can see the date there in 2016. And the guy said she was traded by her mother for a drug balance of $135 a month. While she's in the care of the dealer, she flipped out and they shot her up with something, overdosed and died. The guy confessed to me and took her back to her mother, and they stuffed her in a box. He described the way they had a bender breaker fit. They buried her on a ranch outside of Odessa, okay? And that's why I'm thinking that the private investigator Haley Dunn's over in Odessa, okay, and told me it was a guy named Brett Bushman, you know, and it's unknown if that's the Bushmans over in Odessa, which is probably one of the wealthiest families in Odessa, you know, and actually, if I remember, John Bushman used to run and own CBS 7. One of the stations has me blocked here, one of the news stations. Christy, drug rehab counselor. This is a you know, reliable top witness as far as I'm concerned. She sends me a picture of an email, her resignation letter to her supervisors, that Julie Elliott, Janie Tippy, and this Ramona Thomas. And you know, and in here, I've never stated that I was afraid of BB. Okay, Brett Bushman, right? And since he did have a hand in stuffing a child's body inside of a safe. Now remember, this is a business letter to her supervisor. This is not to me, okay? And his confession of involvement in 3 separate homicides, okay? And considering his affiliation, organizational affiliation, and what that means is that he's a gang member, okay? And you know, and that's what multiple other people have said, that this was connected, that Haley basically was kidnapped by some people that were with the Aryan Brotherhood gang, okay? And so that was just one of the many, you know, do you think that's something that the press, you know, would be, you know, think, oh, wow, that's interesting, you know? And so I went and found this. This is the guy that went over out of his way to harass the private investigator, you know, Haley Dunn, private investigator. Here's a video. This is a woman's, this News West 9 story named Sonia Renee Callahan. She said that Haley was killed over at a home over in Odessa while she was there. Okay, it was because of a drug debt for the mom. Everybody's saying the same stories. 4 years later, Sonia calls me on the phone. I secretly record her. She describes the moment that Haley's murdered. Do you think the press and the public would want to know that? Brandy Dunn, she writes me, okay, and she tells me that, you know, I pretty much know everything. She tells me there's a video. There's a video, I said. Yes, and it was a video of Cody Mercer's murder, too. An unsolved murder, you know. Whole different person over here, Jessica Lee Hadley, you know. She says, yeah, and let me see if I can find it. Yes, that's correct. They videotaped the whole thing, and it's disgusting, as it's absolutely true. So 2 different people are telling me that that there's a video, and the cops have it. Do you think that's why, you know, the private investigators are being harassed over in Odessa, you know? And Taryn Thomas writes on my Facebook wall, you know, I think it's safe to say that we all know that Haley's mom, or Haley's mom's stepdad as well as Haley were on dope. You know, people in Odessa have been saying the same. And then she goes on to say it wasn't a hostage situation. At least 10 people knew she was at that house over in Odessa. Once again, it's in Odessa. And she was overdosed and then buried in the backyard. And you know, and I'll tell you what, her remains are found in Scurry County 2 days after I wrote to the Department of Justice and suggested somebody look in the underground facilities by my house. Yeah, how's that for a quinky dinky? Think the press would report that? Okay, here's a super interesting phone call, not even mine. A woman named Allison said that her baby daddy was a gang member with that Aryan Brotherhood, and him and some of his friends went over to Colorado City, kidnapped Haley in the backyard because of a drug debt the mom owed, took her over in Odessa and was pimping her out. 13-year-old, okay? And that's all in that video. You can find that on my YouTube channel. And then another person tells me the location where Haley's buried. Okay. And then so here I sent all this evidence, right? You can't imagine the people I've contacted. But this one went to Odessa Crime Stoppers. Okay. These are all emails from me. Here's the dates to Odessa Crime Stoppers this year. Okay. I've been contacting people since 2012. Of course, them are all Haley Dunn. That's the evidence I showed you. Recordings, print screens, print calls. I didn't even get a thank you, you know? And so, I'm going to show you the next one. So I contacted KMID. They're the one that did the story on the private investigator, okay? And I've contacted all these news stations over and over and over again. Like I said, 2 of them got me blocked, okay? And so I sent my Facebook post that we just went over, okay, about the Haley Dunn harassed. It was based on their news story. And then I sent this, I wrote this, and I said, sent all this evidence and more to Odessa Crime Stoppers this year. Didn't even get a thank you. I kid you not. It looks like somebody in Odessa is trying to cover up the murder of this little girl. Okay. And then all of a sudden I get a reply back, which is highly unusual because somebody didn't tell Jake. They forgot to tell Jake that they're really trying to cover up the murder. That it's okay to murder some girls, but some girls it ain't, you know. And says, I want to make sure our reporter on this story takes a look at this when she gets back into work today. Well, thank you, Jake. You know, I'm all right, you know, because once you write, I've got a written record, right? That you got my email and you contacted. So we know for a fact that KMID knows, and I never got a call back, you know. But so I went ahead and sent them. I replied back, thank you. I'll send you. Here's a timeline, another video I've created, and it shows that stuff in better detail. I left my phone number there, and then I even put another print screen in here going. No, well, that was a video actually, and. But on convention strippers and murders, that's talking about, was asking if Haley Dunn's mom and Haley was at the 2010 Old Show party. That's a video you ought to watch. Real interesting. I said, I haven't heard from your reporter. I waited 2 or 3 days. That was yesterday. And I said, maybe this will explain it. Secrets of the Secret Police. Video I made yesterday. And that's interesting too. You know, the secret police were secret for 6 years, right? And 2 of them are now dead. Naylor and Simpson. And they died within 2 months of each other, and neither of their names on the police report. Do you think that's a story that the public would want to hear, right? I just sent it. This went to Big 2 News, right? That's where it went, you know. I mean, I sent this over to Big 2 News, you know. And I've sent them via email. I've gone to their Facebook. You just click this send message button right here, you know. There's the reporters, you know, or their anchors. And there we are, you know. And so let me show you on CBS 7 on their Facebook. Notice, oh, we got a share button. There's no comment, like, nothing. That's because CBS 7, they went out of their way to make sure that Buddy doesn't send them any proof or evidence. But I have in the past, you know, that's why they did that, you know. And remember, that was run by John Bushman. But we don't know if John Bushman's related to Brett Bushman that you know, Christy Ott's, a drug rehab counselor, said with, you know, he'd buried 3, you know, involved 3 homicides and buried a child. Midland Reporter telegram, right? Yeah, I'll just contact the press. And my dad said, yeah, you try that, right? And here I'm blocked, right? You know, don't give us no information. Don't let us, you know, we don't want any print screens and recorded phone calls or proof of little girls being murdered. Don't tell us, you know. This right here is an email called Kids Buried Under Home at 3801 Fairhaven. Okay, I made a recording. The woman that lived in that home come over here, and I secretly recorded her telling me there were kids buried under that home. That's right down the street. You know, that's actually right there, real close to near where the chief of police lives too. You know, and you can see where Chief Herman. I'm sending this to the Midland Chief of Police on September 27, 2018. Okay, it sounds pretty big, especially you know, when you add on all the other evidence, right? And look at all these. This is a list of all the homes here that I've recorded people reporting somebody in the attic. You know, that was one of the ones. This guy, he died on the last day of the 2010 Old Show. And you wonder if he's connected to that murder over there. There's a whole story behind that. Somebody used his picture and his face, created Facebook ID. Proof I wasn't shot with my own gun. That makes it a murder attempt. Can't we agree? If I wasn't shot with my gun, we shot with another gun. This is the actual recording that I had, you know. And so, oh, guess what? The chief of police, Herman, blocked me, you know. Well, he must be friends with CBS 7 and the Midland Reporter telegram, you know. And I mean, that's what's going on here. And this one was, I talked about earlier, National Center for Missing Children call, you know. Somebody says, call them, you know, they'll get something done. And I did. But you know what they do? They just pass it on to local law enforcement. And that's where we get stuck again. And there's the problem. I think President Trump is right about the enemy of the public. And it's only some of the public, you know, only some people, only some homes, you know, because some of them they report. Well, we report some murders, you know, and Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.